Alright, so this video is going to be quick because instead of having to watch me type everything, you're going to see it after it's done. In class, I had this idea. I said, hey, let's make score on the Pong. Let's keep score above each player just like it does in the original Pong. And at first we had a little trouble deciding how to organize it because adding to an integer is no problem, score plus equals 1 or something. But, you know, what part of the code was going to be the master of that? Is it the ball? Does the ball have to update the score when it goes off screen? Or is it the main loop? Or is it something else? And it was really messy how if it was the ball, then it would need some global variables, and if it was the main loop, then it would make the main loop big and ugly. And everything was kind of unorganized. So I did what I often do when we have a situation like that, which is to make a new class and say, hey, this class is going to handle it. Everybody else stay the same. Everybody else is unaffected. So I made a score class that does three things. One is it'll have an initialize. It'll start, it always starts at 0, and you tell it left or right, and then it sets up some basics about where it's going to be and everything. Then every frame it calls the update, just like the other objects call the update to see if they move or whatever. And this update is only one thing, which is to draw the number. You can't just draw it once and leave it because it would get overwritten. Like when the ball goes over that spot, it would, you know, destroy it. So instead of making different layers or anything complicated, we're just going to have the score redraw itself every frame just in case. And then the interesting part is the increase method. So this doesn't run on its own, but whenever the ball goes off screen, it tells the score to increase. And this is the only time that the other objects interface with the score. The paddle doesn't know it exists. You know, it's all unaffected. But when the ball goes off screen and it's going to move itself back to the middle, then it'll tell the score, hey, you need to go up. And when it does that, the score will do a few things. It'll bump up the number, the integer. It'll draw a black rectangle where it is, because otherwise you'd have like a 0 and then a 1 drawn on top of the 0 and it would get all blurry. And then it will get the string version of that integer and prepare that. It doesn't actually put it on screen yet, that's part of the update, but it'll get it ready, and then a few milliseconds later that'll run. And then I thought, you know what, let's leave a shockwave because we want the player's eye to be drawn when the score goes from 2 to 3 or something. We can say ding, you know, if this was a program with sound, we would make a little I guess good if it's your score going up, or bad if it's the other guy, to catch their eye. So let me show you what I'm talking about. The score is a number in the same color. So far this is all single color, and if we let it, well, I'm the guy on the right, I let it go off screen, and the left, which is a computer player, got a point, and they also got a shockwave. Let me try to get a point on them. Yeah. Oh, that was so close. You can often get a point on the computer when they're at the bottom because they don't move up fast enough. And now you see they both gone up. They both got the shockwave and the number. Let me show how it goes to 2 and 3. And this is one way to organize it. It's still a little iffy because we're getting to the point where now the objects have two kinds of methods. They have some methods that they call on their own, like the update function for the ball says, hey, I'm going to go through my little chores that I do every frame. And then they also have some methods that get called from outside, like the ball tells the score when it needs to increase. So we might want to have some kind of organization to distinguish which ones are which are the quote-unquote public methods that get called from outside, and which are the ones that are just handled as part of an internal thing. And we also might want to organize our main loop a little bit, but it's still nice and small. I mean, that's only 15 lines or so, and half of them are blank. So we don't have any nonsense polluting our main loop. What I'd like to do probably is to just put these in a list and say, hey, there are some permanent objects that are always on screen. We'll just put those in a list and say, hey, go through the list and update it. And then this whole blob would be 2 lines instead of 5 or 6. And then when we add more later, it would still just be 2 lines. So that's kind of nice. I don't love every aspect of it, but this is a lot better than our first draft when we were trying to figure out, okay, where does it go? Do we need global variables? Do we need a bunch of stuff? The object-oriented approach where you create a class has its own problems, and you can get a bunch of trouble that way too. But I think it works here, and I think it's a nice exercise to learn from. So there you go.